Hello everyone, Daria here and welcome to episode 101 of the Slow Russian Language Podcast. Today we talk about Russian music and I called it Russian music from folk to classical. Sounds fancy, but I decided to add a little bit of change and I won't be reading the entire text in the beginning. So first we translate it sentence by sentence and we discuss it. And at the end, I read the entire text in slow Russian again. So after knowing the meaning already, you can just concentrate on listening. I think it would be more effective and save a little bit of time for us. Okay, here we go. So the first sentence, Russian music encompasses a diverse range of styles and genres, from traditional folk music to classical compositions. Русская музыка охватывает широкий спектр стилей и жанров. Let's stop here. So, русская музыка. Pretty obvious, Russian music. Охватывает. Охватывать is a very fancy verb. You probably would never ever use it in daily speaking, but in texts, in literature, and in articles, kinda everywhere printed, this would be very, very common. In English, it says encompasses, but I would also maybe translate it as covers. So Russian music covers. Русская музыка охватывает. Широкий спектр. Specter should sound familiar to you, almost like a spectrum. Specter. Diverse range, да, широкий спектр. And then we have genitive case, spectrum of what? Of styles and genres. Спектр стилей и жанров. Remember I told you this of something we represent with the genitive case in Russian. So широкий спектр стилей и жанров. Хорошо. From traditional folk music to classical compositions. От традиционной, народной музыки. Folk would be народ. It is interesting, we do have the word folk, but this is specifically about the musical genre. For describing, for example, folk stories or folk traditional costumes, we use the adjectives народный. And don't forget, if you don't hear me, if you can't understand the spelling, open the description of this episode, the show notes, and the full text in Russian with translation is always there. So I highly recommend using it because obviously it's very difficult to understand the new words while listening. So, народный, coming from the word people, commoners, folks, народ, народный. It can be народная музыка, народное творчество, folk crafts, народное творчество, народная культура. And here, yes, музыка, да, народная музыка. И до классических композиций, to the classical compositions. Классические композиции. Again, all these words have the same origins. Да? Классика, композиция. Just pronunciation is a little bit different. Классические композиции. Хорошо. Next sentence. Folk music is characterized by its use of the балалайка and the домра, traditional Russian string instruments. Okay. Для народной музыки характерно. So this is this phrase. Folk music is characterized. In Russian, we say for the folk music, it's typical blah, blah, blah. So this for in Russian is для. Для And then genitive case again. Everywhere genitive, the most important case. Для народной музыки характерно, characterized, yeah, характерно использование балалайки и домры. Балалайки и домры, which case is that? Guess, just guess. Of course, genitive case. Yes, yes. Told you, it's the most important and the most frequently used case of the Russian language. We learn it on level 3 of my From Zero to Fluency. Right now, we're doing the genitive case lessons, so check out the show notes if you want to join. Хорошо. So, использование, the usage. We have the verb to использовать. Использовать. Балалайка. I hope you know this instrument. Балалайка – русский инструмент. И домра. Домра – это традиционный русский, белорусский, украинский инструмент. Традиционные русские струнные инструменты. Струнный means string, and the word струна is a string, kind of one string. For example, some guitars have 6 strings, that's 6 струн. But also we can transform it into an adjective, and it becomes струнный instrument. And all those string instruments are inside of this group. Хорошо. The next sentence, folk songs often tell stories about daily life, love, and nature. Народные песни. Again, you hear this народные coming from folks, coming from people. Народные песни, songs. Часто рассказывают. Рассказывают. You probably know the verb говорить. Говорить, to talk, to speak. Рассказывать is to tell, and it has this meaning of narrating something. So говорить is the general verb, but рассказывать specifically, it can be to tell a story, to tell a poem, something that takes time. Да, рассказывать истории. So these songs tell stories about life, love, and nature. Рассказывают истории о повседневной жизни, любви и природе. Here we have the prepositional case. With о we have prepositional. About something. О жизни. About life. О любви. О природе. About nature. Хорошо, let's move on. Classical music has a rich history in Russia, with famous composers such as Petr Chaikovsky and Sергei Rachmaninoff. Хорошо, let's pause here. The sentence is actually longer, but let's break it down a little bit. So, классическая музыка. Классическая музыка. The shorter version would be классика. Классика. Слушать классику. Слушать классическую музыку. Классическая музыка в России имеет богатую историю. So the classical music in Russia has a rich history. Богатая история. Again, this phrase, you probably in daily life, obviously, in conversation, you would use the form «у меня есть», «у музыки есть богатая история». But it's very conversational. In the beautiful way, you should say the Russian classic music possesses the rich history. Имеет. This is this verb иметь, to have something, to possess something. So классическая музыка имеет богатую историю. It has its rich history. Okay, with famous composers such as Petr Ilyich Tchaikovsky and Sergei Rachmaninoff. Такие известные композиторы, как Петр Чайковский и Сергей Рахманинов. Сергей Рахманинов. да. Они, let me do it in English at first. They, both of whom, wrote works that are still performed today all over the world. So, они писали произведения, которые до сих пор исполняются во всем мире. Very, very difficult. Don't worry if you didn't understand it. So, here we have several things. Произведения. Произведение is the work of some sort. Usually it's a literary work or musical work. Произведение. Very common together with the word art. Искусство. Work of art. Произведение искусства. Genitive case. Произведение искусства. So past tense. Писали произведения. They wrote works, masterpieces. Которые до сих пор. До сих пор means up to this day, means still. До сих пор. For example, I still think about something that happened 10 years ago. Yeah, suddenly 10 years later you came up with a good punchline. That would be good in that situation. Yeah, at 4 a.m. you came up with something you should have said 10 years ago. Да, so до сих пор я думаю об этом. I'm still thinking about it, some situation. Да, до сих пор. До сих пор. So their masterpieces are still played all over the world. До сих пор исполняются. До сих пор исполняются. Passive voice here. So somebody else is obviously playing those musical pieces of work. Хорошо. What's next? These composers, along with Dmitriy Shostakovich, Igor Stravинский, and Sergei Prokofьев, helped establish Russia as a center for classical music. Эти композиторы, plural here, композиторы. Remember, in Russian we just add «y» or «и» in the end, and it becomes plural. Студент, студенты, кот, коты, композитор, композиторы. Наряду с Дмитрием Шостаковичем. Наряду literally means in one row with Дмитрий Шостакович. And it can be a synonym of вместе. So together with Shostakovich and all other wonderful composers, in Russian we can say наряду. Наряду. Хорошо. Так, наряду с Дмитрием Шостаковичем. Here we use the instrumental case because after the preposition с, with, we use instrumental. С другом, с котом, с Шостаковичем. Here is his last name, Дмитрий Шостакович. Стравинский, Прокофьев. So they helped to establish Russia as a center for classical music. Kind of controversial. I actually wrote it myself, but I admit it is a little bit too much, a little bit too kind of we take it upon ourselves to declare that we are the best even in classical music. Obviously not. There are wonderful composers in many other countries, and Russia is just one of them. Just one of them. Let's not diminish wonderful composers from Austria, from Italy, from everywhere. Хорошо, but this is a Russian podcast, so I'm sorry, not sorry, just saying whatever I want here. Okay. So, они помогли сделать Россию центром классической музыки. To make Russia, сделать Россию. This is this favorite topic of all the students. Verbal aspects. Verbal aspects, perfect versus imperfect. Сделать Россию. So here we have the result, so it's perfective. Сделать instead of делать. Center of classical music. Центр классической музыки. Хорошо, хорошо. Their works are considered some of the finest examples of classical music in the world and are still performed in concert halls and opera houses in many countries. This is true. This is true. I'm not overestimating. All over the place you will find Swan Lake, you will find the Nutcracker, you will find everything. Хорошо. So, okay. Let me translate the sentence. Их произведения. Again, you already know this word. Произведение искусства, the work of art. They are considered some of the finest examples. Произведения считаются, they are considered одними из лучших образцов. Example. Образец is example. Образец. Классической музыки, of classical music in the world, в мире, prepositional case, да? And we have this и до сих пор, again, still up to this time, up to this point, до сих пор, исполняются, being played, being performed, again, passive voice here, исполняются in, в концертных залах, in concert halls, в концертных залах, and opera theaters, в оперных театрах многих стран, of many countries, многих стран. Хорошо. And the last part, almost the last. In recent years, Russian music has also seen the emergence of new genres, such as rock, pop, and hip-hop. Not recent years, but by recent years, I mean like starting in the 80s or 70s even. Yeah, recent years. Хорошо. В последние годы, in recent years, в последние годы, in Russian music, в российской музыке, Here, what's the difference between русский и российский? The country itself is Россия, right? But you are probably used to the form русский. So русский is usually more about the nationality, but Russia is a very, very diverse country in terms of nations, in terms of its, a lot of minorities. There are more than 100 languages spoken in Russia. So российский with this O usually is used as a unifying term for Russia as a country. For example, российский flag, Russian flag would be российский because this is the flag of the country, российский flag. But in a lot of cases, they are just interchangeable in daily life. It's not correct, but it is what it is. So, хорошо. Появление, appearance, появление новых жанров, of new genres, новых жанров, genitive case again. Таких как, such as, таких как рок, поп и хип-хоп. I don't need to translate these, right? The same words. Rock, pop, hip-hop. Хорошо. These genres have gained popularity among young people and have created new opportunities for musicians to showcase their talents. Эти жанры, again plural, we add «y», эти жанры завоевали. Завоевать, it can be gained, but it's a metaphor and it's more like conquered. So they conquered the popularity. Завоевать literally means to conquer. For example, William the Conqueror. Да, William завоеватель. Популярность. So it gained popularity. Popularity among young people. Среди молодежи. Молодежь is the layer of society, young people. Да, молодежь. From the word young, молодой. Старый, old, and молодой, young. So молодежь is the group of young people overall in the country, молодежь. So, popularity among young people and have created new opportunities for musicians to showcase their talents. Открыли, opened, открыли музыкантам, for musicians, dative case here, новые возможности, new possibilities, new chances, new opportunities, новые возможности. Для демонстрации, demonstration, to demonstrate, демонстрации своих талантов. So you see, it's all the words that you know even in English. Жанр, музыкант, демонстрация, талант. So it's like genre, musician, talent, demonstration. It's all here. The next one's coming. Again, all the words you already know. Additionally, modern technologies like the internet and streaming platforms have made it easier for Russian musicians to reach a global audience. So listen here. Современные технологии, технологии, такие как интернет и потоковые платформы. Потоковые платформы is a very strange name. It's actually meaning Spotify, Apple Music. That's what they mean. So I think the better way to say it would be стриминговые сервисы, streaming services, стриминговые сервисы. Облегчили, to make it easier, облегчить. We have the word легкий, легко, easy, light. Облегчить, to make it light, to make it easy. Облегчить. So we add this prefix and it adds a little bit of different meaning to make something simple, easy, light. So it was easier for Russian musicians. Облегчили российским музыкантам. Again, you see, российские музыканты, not русские. Because in Russia we have many nationalities. So it can be a Tatar musician or musician from Bashkiria, anyone. And or Mordva, for example, I have Mordva blood in me, like 50%. I'm sorry. But the unifying term would be российские музыканты. Доступ, access, доступ к мировой аудитории, to global audience. Мир, world, мировой, global audience. Okay, and the last small passage. Overall, Russian music is a rich and diverse field that spans from traditional folk songs to the most advanced classical compositions, reflecting the country's cultural heritage, its historical and political context, and the artistic creativity of its people. See how beautiful it sounds? Yeah, I'm trying my best. Хорошо. So, overall, it would be в целом. Целое in Russian means a whole, like as a whole. Something that was not divided, it's a whole piece. В целом, overall. Русская музыка, да, это богатая и разнообразная область. It's rich and diverse field. Богатая и разнообразная область. От традиционных народных песен, from traditional folk songs, до самых передовых, for the most advanced. This advanced would be передовой, from the word перед, front, kind of being in front of something, being the first, перед, передовые. Классические произведения, classic works. Отражающую культурное наследие. I love this phrase, it's cultural heritage. cultural heritage. In modern Russia, it is very important, and big attention goes to this cultural heritage of the country and how not to lose it. Культурное наследие. Хорошо. The next one, it's historical and political context. Ее исторический и политический контекст. Again, historical, исторический, political, политический, context. Context. Literally 3 words that you know in English without even learning Russian. Да? История, политика, контекст. Хорошо. And also the artistic creativity of its people. Художественное. Artistic, художественное. So we have the word художник, the artist. Художественное, artistic. Творчество, creativity, craftsmanship, all this stuff, art. Of its people. Ее народа. Here is this word народ, folk, people, народ, ее народа. Хорошо, все. Oh my goodness, that's it for this text. But now let's read it again, the entire text. This is a very difficult text, but at the same time, it's very beautiful. So please sit back, enjoy, open the text in the show notes, and go with me while reading. Русская музыка охватывает широкий спектр стилей и жанров, от традиционной народной музыки до классических композиций. Для народной музыки характерно использование балалайки и домры, традиционных русских струнных инструментов. Народные песни часто рассказывают истории о повседневной жизни, любви и природе. Классическая музыка в России имеет богатую историю. Такие известные композиторы, как Петр Чайковский и Сергей Рахманинов, писали произведения, которые до сих пор исполняются во всем мире. Эти композиторы, наряду с Дмитрием Шостаковичем, Игорем Стравинским и Сергеем Прокофьевым, помогли сделать Россию центром классической музыки. Их произведения считаются одними из лучших образцов классической музыки в мире и до сих пор исполняются в концертных залах и оперных театрах многих стран. В последние годы в российской музыке также наблюдается появление новых жанров, таких как рок, поп и хип-хоп. Эти жанры завоевали популярность среди молодежи и открыли музыкантам новые возможности для демонстрации своих талантов. Кроме того, современные технологии, такие как интернет и потоковые платформы, стриминговые сервисы, облегчили российским музыкантам доступ к мировой аудитории. В целом, русская музыка представляет собой богатую и разнообразную область, простирающуюся от традиционных народных песен до самых передовых классических произведений, отражающую культурное наследие страны, ее исторический и политический контекст, а также художественное творчество ее народа. I'll be honest with you, this is an extremely difficult text, so you are definitely not supposed to understand, I think, even 50% of it. But still, good exercise for the brain. I promise next episode I will make a little bit easier, a little bit lower in terms of grammar. and vocabulary. If you want to learn Russian with me and especially to know more about Russian music, especially modern Russian music, I invite you all to my full step-by-step course, not the one on YouTube. I have to say it, I guess, every time now. It's not the same as the one on YouTube. I called it From Zero to Fluency, but it's the separate, step-by-step, very well organized Russian language course, but also I introduce Russian music, Russian movies, Russian art. So all those cultural aspects I try to cover in every single lesson there, starting on level 2. So I invite you all there. I'll be extremely happy to see you among my students. Хорошо, that's it for today. If you want to request any podcast topic, please open the show notes and you will find my contact information and how to send a message to me. That's it for today. Thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you in the next episode of the Slow Russian Language Podcast. Пока-пока.